Welcome to the Lean Out Your Business podcast, a show dedicated to helping entrepreneurs accelerate business growth and simplify success. I'm your host, Crista Grasso, and I've been working with businesses for more than 2 decades to help them lean out and optimize what's working while eliminating anything that's not adding value. So if you are ready to get more time back in your day, more profit in your business, and to do business differently, growing and scaling on your terms, let's dive into today's episode. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Lean Out Your Business podcast. It is hard to believe, but it's already almost Q2, and we are a quarter of the way through this year already. It feels like it's really flying by, and I know so many people have shared with me that they're in a place where they're feeling really behind, really overwhelmed, and like they are nowhere close to achieving the goals that they set for their business. So here's what we're going to talk about today. We are going to check in and see how you're doing on your goals, on your revenue targets, on whatever those big, bold business moves are that you want to be making this year. And I'm going to walk you through a 90-day retrospective process that I do with all of my clients and that I think will be really helpful as you look forward to the next 90 days and get yourself set up for Q2. And I'm also going to walk you through a few things that you want to consider when you're doing your planning. But first things first, the one thing I will say is we are where we are. And at this point, you can't change anything about Q1, but what you can do is look back and reflect on it. And you can look at what worked really well that you want to carry forward and make sure that you're repeating and doing more of as you step into the new quarter. And what are those things that maybe didn't go as well as expected? And if things didn't go as well as expected, really try to understand why that was. Were there unexpected things that came up that got in your way? Did you maybe bite off a little bit more than you could chew? Or maybe, just maybe, you didn't have a really solid strategic plan in place? And without that proper planning, we often can overcommit and really underestimate how long the things are going to take that we're trying to do. The really beautiful thing about the start of any new 90-day period is that it gives you that opportunity to reset and to reflect. So take this time to really get clear on what those goals and targets are for the year, and most importantly, what you are going to go all in and commit to for Q2. So what I recommend that you do anytime you are getting ready to plan for any new time period, if you're getting ready to plan for a new year, if you're getting ready to plan for a new quarter, a new month, a new week, a new day, I always recommend that you start with reflection on the previous time period first, because there's so much valuable input that if you give yourself even just a few minutes to reflect, you can often really accelerate your results and avoid repeating a lot of mistakes or clear out some of the noise and distractions that maybe previously got in your way. So here's a few things to be thinking about. When you look at those goals and revenue targets that you set for Q1, how did you do? And not only how did you do, meaning did you achieve them? Did you check the box? But how did you achieve them? Did you do it in a way where you had to hustle and work 24/7 and you are downright exhausted right now? Or did you do it in a nice, sustainable pace where you really protected your personal time and whatever your lifestyle goals are, and you didn't feel like you were sacrificing yourself, your family, your self-care, whatever those other things are, in order to achieve those goals and targets, right? Because it's not just a matter of if we got things done, but it's a matter of how we got them done that ultimately leads to the sustainable success and the fulfillment and happiness that we have in our business. So that's one thing to be reflecting on. The next is when you think about growing your business, right? What were you looking to do from a growth perspective, and did you achieve that? And why or why not? Again, at this point, it's not a matter of judgment. What's happened, happened. What didn't happen, didn't happen. It's a matter of data and analytics and what can you take out of the experience? What do you want to repeat? What do you want to make sure that you don't repeat? And then when you think about scaling, right? If scaling is a big focus for you this year, just as it is for us in Lean Out Method, are you really focused on putting the systems, the team, and the strategic planning in place that it's really going to take to set you up to be able to scale in that simple, sustainable way? right? So do a little bit of reflection on those things. And then let me walk you through what I call the 90-day retrospective. And this is something, as I shared, that I do with each of my private clients. And it's something that we do together for anyone who's in any of my programs. If you're in Simplify to Scale with me, if you're in my Changemaker 500 Mastermind with me, we do quarterly planning retreats every single 90 days. And this is an activity that we do together inside that retreat as well. The beautiful thing about it is you get to share where you're at, you get to ask questions. But let me walk you through the 4 questions that we include in that session because I think they're very powerful. The first 2 questions really get at your results. And these are the things that you're going to be celebrating as you look back on the past 90 days. What were the results that you got and what is there that you have to celebrate? And sometimes celebration is positive in achievements and sometimes celebration is things that you learned, right? Maybe something didn't go as well as you wanted it to, but it's okay because you learned from it. And if you can apply those learnings, it's going to go a whole lot better next time. So the 2 result-oriented questions are, what are you most proud of and what went really well in this past 90 days? Then when you look at the flip side of that, what didn't go as well as you expected and what are your lessons learned for this 90 days? And again, you want to celebrate both, not just the positive, you want to also celebrate those things that didn't go well because you tried, you put yourself out there, you probably took a whole lot of action. And at the end of the day, it's always disappointing when we don't get the results that we want or when things move at a pace that's a lot slower than we want it to move at. But we still showed up for our business. We still took action. We still invested in our next level. And so there has to be some degree of recognition, gratitude, celebration for the things that you did, even if they didn't work, but don't let those things repeat themselves. And that's part of what this activity helps you do. So this activity really, really powerful to do with your team because they may have different perspectives. I find when I meet one-on-one solo with a business owner, they frequently have a whole lot of things in the lessons learned and didn't go as well as expected column and a whole lot less in the most proud of and went really well column. Whereas when I meet with a business owner and their team, the opposite is true. The team recognizes all of the amazing things that went really well and that the business owner did and that the business as a whole accomplished and achieved. And they actually, sometimes don't have as many lessons learned in things that didn't go as well as expected because they're one step removed. So they have that perspective that sometimes when we're so close to something is hard to have. So really, really recommend if you have a team, even if your team is freelancers or contractors, that you do this with them. But if nothing else, reflect on these 4 questions. So again, the first 2, what are you most proud of and went really well? And what are the lessons learned and things that didn't go as well as expected? And these relate to your results. Now, the next 2 questions relate back to the first 2 questions, and these are all about alignment. This is about what are you going to be planning in the next 90 days? And so the first question that you want to ask is, what do you want to continue or do more of as you move into this 90-day period? And those things are usually really closely tied to the things that you're most proud of and that went really well, right? When you're getting great results, when things are working, you want to repeat them, you want to do more of them. Now, the other question to ask is, what do you want to eliminate and lean out or do less of? And again, that's pretty closely tied to lessons learned and things that didn't go as well as expected, because you do not want to repeat things that aren't working. Sometimes you might just simply want to cut them entirely and fully lean them out. Other times you may just simply need to reimagine your approach or how you're doing something so that you can get better results. Now, once you complete the 90-day retrospective, there's another piece of this that's really important to do, and that is following the Chuck technique. If you're not familiar with the Chuck technique, which is something that's proprietary to Lean Out Method, go back and check out podcast episode 12, because in that I walk you through how to use the Chuck technique in detail. But at a high level, Chuck stands for cut, hold, change, and keep. And once you have done your overall retrospective, you then want to look at what's left. And you want to run it through a series of questions to look at what are the activities that your team and yourself are doing that can be cut and leaned out What are the things that you really want to place on hold? Maybe they're important to do long term, but they're not important to do right now. So by putting them on hold, you can create space for some of the new things that you want to do or some of the goals that you have for this next 90 days. What are some things that you want to change, right? They're important to the business, but maybe you aren't getting the results that you would like, or maybe you were getting great results, but you know you could get even better results if you make a few small changes. And then finally, what are the things that you want to keep? And they're working great as is, not a high priority to really be focused on right now. You just want to keep on doing them because they're giving you the results that you're looking for. So this is really a two-part activity, starting with that 90-day retrospective and then going out and doing Chuck. And you can do Chuck for each of your major activities in your business. I also really like to apply Chuck to my offers. So if you have a lot of offers in your business, something I talk about a lot in my workshop series, especially my scalable signature offer system workshop series, is the importance of having that single scalable signature offer and then eventually building out your scalable signature offer suite when you really dive in deep and understand your customer journey and have that really cohesive offering for them based on that journey. What I see a lot of people have is a whole lot of offers in their business. And what they think is actually going to help them achieve their revenue targets actually causes them to have to work way too hard and have way too many moving parts and way too much complexity and noise when they really could simplify things. So you can apply Chuck to your offers overall if you have a lot of offers. But if you do have that smaller suite of offers and you've really dialed it in, then where Chuck can be really helpful when it comes to your offers is going in and looking at each of the components of your offer to see what makes sense. Right? Maybe you do a monthly Q&A right now, and you do a monthly office hours, and you do a monthly workshop. When you look at what gets the best turnout, when you look at what seems to provide the most value to your clients, when you look at where people have the most questions, when you look at what they're looking for more of, is there a way to reimagine things? Maybe you say, you know what? I don't think people are really showing up and using those office hours the way that I intended. They really just turn into another Q&A. So I think it's going to be more valuable if I go in and do 2 Q&A calls in a month plus a workshop and I cut the office hours, right? And so you can really take that technique and get a little bit more granular because sometimes those small refinements are the things that are going to have the biggest impact on conversions and on people retaining as a client because they're so happy with what you're doing and they're getting such great results. So as part of your reflection on the prior 90 days, highly recommend that you answer those 4 questions for the 90-day retrospective, and then you do Chuck on your activities and your offers or your components of your offers. Now, once you have all of that as input, it's time to actually create your 90-day plan for Q2. And I'm going to walk you through some of the core components of a 90-day plan that is achievable and is achievable without overwork and overwhelm. So first things first is get really clear on what your major goals are for the upcoming 90 days, as well as what your revenue targets are. Your goals and revenue targets are sometimes tied to one another, sometimes they're different. For example, a goal might be to launch your own podcast, might be to do a book launch, might be to finish writing your book. There's any number of goals that you could have that don't have a direct monetary tie in the short term, but you always have revenue goals for each 90 days. So once you have your goals and your revenue targets, you want to get really clear on what your focus number is. And if you're unfamiliar with focus number, go back and listen to our last podcast episode where I gave you a behind the scenes on one of my workshop series where I walk you through how to leverage a focus number to really simplify growing and scaling your business. So that will make things a whole lot easier as you go in and start to develop your 90-day plan. So at this point, you should have goals, you should have revenue targets, you should have your focus number. And there's one more piece that's really, really critical. And this is how you avoid overwork and overwhelm. And that is you need to know your capacity. So when you look ahead at this next 90 days, what is your capacity that you have available for your business? And when you look more broadly across your entire team, what is your full team's capacity for the business in the next 90 days? So let's just say we'll keep it simple that everybody is working 40 hours a week. So that's your capacity. Now, when you go in and start to build out your plan and you start to actually commit to what you're going to be doing, here's a tip for you. You want to always make sure you're doing capacity-based planning and that you're leaving at least 30% of open space on your calendar. And when I say this, sometimes people are like, yeah, right. I don't even have time to get done everything I need to get done. There's no way I'm leaving 30% of my time unscheduled. But here's what happens. When you fill every single hour that you have allocated to your business, how often do you underestimate how long something is going to take? Or how often do unexpected things come out of left field that you never saw and never predicted that end up taking a whole lot of time? Sometimes there are challenges and issues and things that you're working through, but sometimes they're great opportunities that you want to be able to take advantage of. And if you have every single second of every single day scheduled and these unexpected things happen or something takes longer than you thought it was going to take, you have two choices. You either overwork and just keep on working and working and working to try to get it all done, or you say yes to those things and you end up having to say no to some other things, and it ends up making you feel constantly behind. So what I recommend you do when you go into your 90 days is get really clear on what that capacity is. And then when you create your plan, make sure that you leave 30% capacity. So in a 40-hour work week, that means you're only committing to 28 hours worth of activities. Now, what you'll find is with that 30% open space, it gets fully filled really quickly, but it does minimize the amount that you end up having to overwork. And that can really help with feeling overwhelmed and just feeling inspired and motivated in your business. You feel like you're ahead. You feel like you're getting things done. You feel like you're meeting your commitments. You feel like you're achieving your goals instead of constantly feeling behind and like you can't quite get caught up. Total different way to approach your 90 days. And it does a lot from a mindset perspective, as well as actually allowing you to get things done. You will be amazed how much more you get done when you commit to less. But that being said, let's say that you have a week where for whatever reason, nothing unexpected happened and you were right on with all of your estimates and you actually have an extra 12 hours left at the end of the week. That is not the end of the world. That is a beautiful thing, because one of the things that you are going to do next is you are going to create your backlog. And your backlog are all of the different projects, all of the different marketing campaigns, all of the different things that you are going to do to achieve your goals and your revenue targets for the next 90 days, as well as all of those operational type of things and client fulfillment type of things that you have to do to keep the business running and keep your existing clients happy and achieving the results that they signed up to achieve. So if you have these magical unicorn 12 hours left at the end of the week, which almost never happens, you could go into your backlog and you could pull the next most important thing and get started working on it. Or you could actually give yourself a little bit of space and do some innovative work on your business, or give yourself some time for yourself and invest it in self-care or self-development. So I would say 90 to 95% of the time, that 30% is going to magically disappear each week. But on those rare occasions where you do actually have some extra capacity, it gives you just even more freedom and flexibility in what you are investing your time in. So you always can feel confident that you are working on the most important things at the right time that are going to take you closer to those overall goals and targets that you have for your business. There is so much more that I could dive into when it comes to planning, because that is what we are all about in Lean Out Method, is lean strategic planning, which is doing strategic planning in a way that does not take a whole lot of time and that allows you to really consistently achieve your goals and make that big, bold vision that you have for your business a reality without unnecessary noise, complexity, overwork, and overwhelm. But I hope the tips that I shared with you really help you get set up for a very successful Q2 and to not feel behind going into the second quarter of the year, and instead feel really confident that you are absolutely going to achieve your goals, you're going to achieve your revenue targets, and that there is still plenty of time if you're feeling behind to get caught up, or it's a great time to go ahead and to reimagine what the rest of this year will look like. If you want to dive a little bit deeper into the lean out method or get my support in developing your strategic plans for the rest of this year, there are a few different ways that you can do that. You know, we have our 90-day lean out planner. Well, we just added a digital version. I will always be a pen and paper kind of person, but that being said, I've had so many of you ask me for a digital version that I did add it, and I have committed to actually using the digital version for this quarter to see what it's like so I can experience what all of you who love digital experience. So if you would like to be using the digital planner right alongside me, you can go ahead and get that at leanoutmethod.com/digital-LOP for Lean Out Planner. And you'll find that down below in the show notes. And you can find our regular Lean Out Planner, our physical hard copy one that we will ship right to your doorstep at leanoutmethod.com/LOP for Lean Out Planner. And of course, if you would like my support, I would love to chat with you and see how I can best support you to simplify and scale your business and develop those lean strategic plans. You can put time on my calendar at any time at scalingstrategycall.com. So if you got a ton of value out of this episode, can't wait to hear how Q2 goes for you. I'm personally really excited about Q2, and I hope that you are as well. I will see you again next week. Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Lean Out Your Business podcast. I hope you got a lot of value and actionable insights from today's show, and would love if you take a moment to leave us a review. If you have any questions on today's episode or on how to lean out your business, join us over in our private Facebook community, where every week we do live training and Q&A, and I'd love to have you be part of the conversation. Head to leanoutmethod.com/group to join us. And before you go, be sure to subscribe to the show so you're the first to know when we release a new episode. We'll see you next week.